Stephen, welcome to the pod, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Like I've just said there, I've just done my first game of five-a-side in God knows how long, mate, and my heart's pounding at my chest.
I went for a run myself last night on a 40-minute run. First time in a long time, mate. My legs are a bit sore today, so I feel your pain.
Let's start with your amateur days then. I know you box with a couple of people who I know, Ray Jochins and Paul Jamo. I work with Paul for years and always talking about you.
Good lad, Jamo.
Yeah. I still don't know why you never went and cracked on, but the accountancy took over by the looks of it.
Yeah, do you know what? He was talented as well. National champion. I boxed for England also with him, as well as sort of coming across. We met in the championships. We were both quite light for the weight. We were only small, and we both come across the same weight. And Jamo was in school with all my mates in Campion. I went to Archbishop Beck, but a lot of my mates from primary went to Campion. So it was a bit of a local derby, shall we say. He was in the transport, I was in the rotunda, and really good memories. Top fighter, as I say, it was a good win for myself. And again, we went on years later. I won the title a couple of weights up, and each stayed at the 48 lighter weight. And he was national champion himself then, and we both boxed for England together and won the Four Nations together. So really good memories.
Well, speaking of your memories then from amateur days, over 150 amateur fights. People don't realise, don't get me wrong, I haven't fought. I wouldn't say, I didn't box from when I was about 14 onwards. But going back in them days, I don't think people understand how hard it is in the amateur, because obviously the decisions are a bit questionable at times.
Yeah.
How did you find the amateurs compared to the pro? Obviously, it's a big transition, isn't it? It's totally different. I thought anyway.
The transition's massive to what it is nowadays in terms of, and that's not feeling sorry for our generation. It's just we play we fought in a style which was 4-2s, and it was sort of a very fencing system with computer scoring where they scored the clear shot. So it was a certain style of boxing, sort of a fencing style, what had worked well. And then nowadays, you've got the amateurs being 3-3s. They don't wear head guards. It's more like professional boxing, just shorter rounds. So the transition's not that different for them. Kids turning pro now, really lucky that they're not doing anything different. They're just doing more rounds. If anything, the pace slows, so it becomes slightly easier. The start of the pro game is slightly easier than the top level amateur game, if that makes sense. So not a bad transition at all. Now it just depends on the speed you move. But back then, as I say, it was sort of 4-2s, fencing, point scoring, and I feel I adjusted my style to really suit the amateurs. I had really, really good results and a very successful amateur career, but I think it was down to the fact that I modified my style, where I'd always start quick, I'd always try and get a lead, and I always felt it was a lot easier boxing on the back foot with a lead, making your opponent chase you a bit, and when he's getting a bit desperate because he's behind and he starts throwing from out of range, making him miss and making him pay. I think that sort of really suited me down to the ground, and I had really good success in the amateur career down to that.
Well, obviously, how difficult did you find it growing up then? Obviously, you're in a boxing family. Your dad's obviously banged into it as well. How did you find it being away from everyone? So obviously your mates would go out and your mates are doing different things, and you're in the gym constantly. Obviously, girls and everything when you're a teenager. And that, how hard was that for you?
I found it not so bad early days. When everyone started going out and people start the usual, the drinking on the street when I was about 15ish, something like that. I've never ever got peer pressure. I had a good group of mates, and most of my mates sort of boxed with me and knew how good I was. I was always in the England team. I was national champion from my first year boxing. I won 9 national titles, so I was always sort of national champion, always boxed for England. It was always important to me, so I never ever got peer pressure of having a drink. It was always sort of we're going to have a little drink tonight, but Swifty can't. They just left me alone and sort of never peer pressured me. They always knew I had fights coming up for England or championships or whatever it may be. So really lucky I had a good group of mates in that way, where they never sort of peer pressured me or tried to force me into anything, which was good. So it didn't bother me. When I got a bit older, 17ish, I met my girl, who's my wife now, do you know what I mean? And when we first got together, the usual, you start going out for little meals and stuff, you're the kids really, and when I started going away, it was four days every week in Sheffield and spending time away all the time. I think I got a little bit of fear that I was missing out on things, and when me mates started sort of the going out things, then like they were going on nights out, 17, 18 and stuff, and I think then I felt a little bit more of the fear of missing out. I think I thought then a lot. I was getting a bit homesick then because I felt like that was a time everyone remembers in their life when the mates all start going out and stuff, and the fact that I couldn't do that as often did probably get to me a bit more than it should, because I look back now and just, I think, not I've got no regrets, but if I could start my career again, the biggest thing I always say, I say it to young kids, I say it to young pros, is to tell everyone, if I started my career again, I'd enjoy it more. I had some of the best times in my life travelling the world with friends who are still friends to this day. I met some of the best people in my life and them England teams, and I travelled the world with them, and I just wish I enjoyed it more. I think at the time I felt like it was a chore and it was a job, and I had to always make weight, which I never enjoyed making weight. It's tough for anyone. But if I went back into it again, I'd enjoy it more, because some of the best times of your life, I've seen a lot of the world thanks to boxing, really.
Yeah, and obviously you travelled the world. You picked up the Commonwealth gold medal in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Is that sort of when you knew that that's what you wanted, and you wanted to take it from there?
No, I knew very young. I knew very early I was going to be a professional boxer. I went through senior school, as I say, my first year boxing, I was national champion, and I thought then, hang on, I must be good at this. And I was boxing. I had my 13th birthday. I was in Moscow boxing for England, or my 14th birthday, I think it was, something like that. And it was important. I was on my own. Obviously, it was a schoolboy, so none of my parents with me or not. And I was in Moscow, turning 14, boxing for England. So I knew at that sort of stage it was important. Right. And I always had the confidence I was going to be a boxer. And I remember going through school, and I had a teacher, and he used to always say to me, like, because I was bright in school, I'd done A-level maths, A-level physics, and A-level PE. And my physics teacher used to always go after me and say, "Sport will never pay your bills, lad. Like, get your work done." And he used to just laugh and just say, "Whatever, I know I'm going to be a boxer anyway." And he used to say to me, "Get your work done, sport will never pay your bills." And I was thinking, whatever, I will see. And I always had that attitude. I knew I'd box, and I knew I'd be successful. I just didn't know how successful, or whether I'd do this or whether I'd do that. That was always sort of down to me. And, if it was ever going to come down to effort, then I knew I'd never let myself down.
I love hearing stories like that, because it's boss when you can throw it back in the face, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? The funny thing is, I left school, and at 20, I won the gold medal in the Commonwealth Games, and I went back into school and showed my medal off in the assembly, and he was there getting pictures with me. And again, I turned pro and I won a British and Commonwealth title. I went back in with my belt, and he was there getting pictures with me. I was just sort of looking at the corner of me, I think, you definitely told me I wouldn't do this, do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't be cheeky enough or disrespectful enough to say anything to him, but I was definitely thinking it.
I wasn't going to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because obviously you've just mentioned that. Do you find that there's a lot of that over your career with the success? Do you find that you get people that are more like a sheep? They'll follow you, and then how lonely is it when you get beat? Let's say.
Do you know what? It's tough, and again, I've just sort of been speaking about that not long back. We were having something to eat with a couple of friends, and we were talking about the highs in boxing are unreal and the lows are really low. And I was saying about like times when I had my first loss and I didn't want to go out the house. My professional loss, I didn't want to leave the house. And so to say, my wife was sort of like telling me milk from the shop. Never had kids at the time, and I was like, "We'll go and get it." And I always go to the shop for stuff like that, you know what I mean? And she was like, "Stay, come on." And she knew I just didn't want to go out the house. So the lows are really low. But back to the question what you're asked in terms of the sheep, like sort of sheep mentality. It's a weird feeling, because when you walk in the ring, say like you're boxing in the Echo Arena, if you just look at the crowd, if you went across, like, say, selected 10 people, all 10 people would be clapping you. Out of them 10, 3 probably want you to win. 3 probably don't want you to win. And the other 4 probably don't really care. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird sort of feeling you get from people. You know when people are genuinely happy for you. You know when people are just saying it because you sort of see them face to face. So it's weird, but it's like that in boxing. It's a very fickle sport. You can be the best thing in the world. You can go and win a world title and be unbelievable, and then you have a bad performance and you're awful. We've seen it recently with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's heavyweight champion of the world, unbelievable fighter. been on a crazy journey out the sport and come back into the sport, and he's won the heavyweight title again. Amazing achievement. Has a poor performance against Francis Ngannou, who's an MMA fighter, and he's awful now. People have mentioned Tyson Fury now, and they go, he's terrible. He couldn't beat the MMA fighter and stuff, and it's crazy. But that's the world we live in. That's how fickle boxing is, and it's a tough sport to be a part of for that reason, because it's not remembered that we're all human and we can all have a bad day. Everyone in the world has a bad day at work. They go into work and they don't feel themselves. They don't feel up to it. They don't feel good. They've had a bad night's sleep. Anything like that can happen, but when it's boxing, it's not allowed to happen. You're not allowed to have a bad night's sleep and not perform, or you're not allowed to just not be yourself. Some days you're just not at it. Sometimes you leave it in the gym and you get in the ring and you think, wow, what's wrong with me? You're tired really in your thoughts, or you don't feel as good as you do. Your stomach's a bit off. Anything like that can happen. We're all human, but he just doesn't get forgiven in boxing.
No, definitely not. Well, when you turn pro, obviously 32 fights, and for anyone who hasn't stepped in the ring before, that's a lot of fights professionally, let's be honest. And 4 losses, which is no embarrassment to anyone. 4 losses out of 32 fights, especially 28 wins, 15 knockouts. We're going to talk about one fight what'll probably stick with everyone's memory, and probably your memory when you look back at pictures, the Vargas one. Obviously, unbelievable fights throughout your career, but every time I think about it, I think back to that, and it fucking give me nightmares, I'll be honest.
Yeah, do you know what? As I say, I only lost 4 times. I lost to 4 world champions, so I've got no shame in me losses. You know what I mean? The only people that beat me were champions of the world, so I can live with that. I can put my head on my pillow and I can sleep and know that I only lost to the best, and I'm okay with that. And it's still here. Don't get me wrong. I probably grab my eyes every time, and that's just because I wasn't born wanting to lose. I'm a winner, and I've got that mentality. I'll always give everything I've got to win. I give everything I've got in the gym to be in the best shape possible to win. And that fight was a weird one because I'm fighting in Vegas and finally got there. I've always wanted to fight in Vegas. It was a dream from a kid, and I'm fighting in the Mandalay Bay, and it's all sort of, I've got myself in really good shape. I'm ready to go. And round 2 in the fight, he just sort of, it wasn't a butt, but he banged heads with the side of my head, and I could just hear like a bum, 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 just throbbing me, and I was thinking, something's not right here. And every time I sat down in the corner, my brother Paul was putting an ice pack on me and just pressing it on me, and I can't really hear him in my right ear, so I was just sort of lip reading my corner, just thinking, something's not right here. I don't know what's going on. And then the fight went on and kept going on, and then it happened again in round 9, and bang, he hits me again. I was like, oh, same here. And the referee just said time. So I was like, this must be bad here, because if he's going to, it looks like he's taking me to the doctor. He's called time on the fight. If he's taking me to the doctor, it must be swelling worse than I knew. Obviously, I couldn't see my own ear, so I didn't know how bad it was. And then I turned and looked at my corner, and I remember seeing Joe in the corner with his hands on his head, and I was like, this must be bad. So I looked up at the big screen in the arena, and I could see my ear hanging off, and I was like, nightmare. So I got the doctor, and he was just straight away like, fight's done, get into hospital. So I walked back the corner, and the Americans are over the top. As I got back the corner, there was a fella standing there with a roller tape, and he's going, hold still, man, your ear's going to fall off. And I was like, what are you doing with that? And he went, I'm going to tape your ear on. I was like, mate, you're not putting that tape near my head. It's like, not a chance. I just got out the ring and worked out. Crazy memory for me, but I don't know, I beat myself up that night, because I remember sitting in the ambulance, and my dad was in the ambulance with me, and that was a proper low point in my career. I was just thinking, how has this happened to me? Like, I'm a big believer you need a big slice of luck in sport anyway, and luck can go for you or against you or whatever. And I just felt like I had quite a lot of bad luck in my career with incidents like that, stuff like that happening where, I've never watched a fight and seen someone leave the ring with their ear hanging off due to a clash of heads. You know what I mean? It's never happened, and before or since, and then it happens to me, and I was like, how's this happened to me? Do you know what I mean? But, on the flip side, it was sort of an experience what I learned a lot from. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot, in terms of how to pick yourself back up and how to deal with things that sort of out of your control. Do you know what I mean? And I've actually got funny memories of it now, because I think I stayed awake for about 2 or 3 days because I couldn't sleep. I kept having visions of me being on the pillow when I woke up and stuff, so I couldn't sleep. So I remember going to the hospital, and my wife always comes everywhere to box, but she never goes to the arena. She doesn't like watching boxing, so she stays in the hotel. So I'm obviously in getting on the way to hospital or whatever, and I said to my brother, "You're gonna have to let Jade know." And he said he phoned her, and he said, "Jay, listen, you're gonna have to go to the hospital." And she was like, "What's happened? What's going on?" And he was like, "He's fine. He's just got a little cut on his ear. He'll have to go to the hospital." So bless her, she turns up with like me getting me ear stitch back on. You know what I mean? It was a bit of a surreal experience for her as well, but it was something that'll always stick in my head. And a funny thing about it, I remember getting back to the hotel after the night they stitched me up and stuff, and it was a crazy night in the hospital. There was people getting wheeled in dead who'd been shot dead and stuff, and I was thinking quite quick, like, do you know what, I've got to think of the bright side here. There's people dead in the bed next to me and stuff, and you know, I've got to cut me ear, like, whatever. I'm going back home healthy to my kids. So I try and see the bright side pretty quickly, and got back to my hotel, and I got my phone out, and I had like something like 3,500 inbox messages on Instagram, like so many thousands, and I was like, wow, I've never seen nothing like this. And as I opened my phone, I was on my phone I never slept. I was on the phone through the night, just chat, and it was just constantly like pictures and pictures I was tagged in of like the fight and me, and all different languages, not just saying like wow and stuff, because again, it was quite surreal for people to see on the telly, and I probably got more exposure from that fight than any other of me fights put together, and it was due to me nearly coming off, which is not a very good sign of my career, but it was a mad night. It was a weird one.
But do you look back at it now and you think, obviously, you've gone through obviously the amateurs, winning the ABAs, Commonwealths, WBCs, and then you get to them moments, and like you said, the slice of luck, it just doesn't go your way. But can you put your hand on your heart and look back and say you've done everything you could, and you know, you fought your heart out and you left it all in there?
Yeah, and if I couldn't, I'm one of them people. I'm a big overthinker anyway. I think I'd really struggle with knowing like regrets and stuff that if I didn't. But anyone who ever shared the gym with me, anyone who ever shared the ring with me as well, will know. You know, I give it everything I had. Preparation wise for every fight, I walked the ring knowing that I couldn't have done any more. And something I tell my own fighters now: if you walk that ring with any doubts, it will play on your mind when you're stepping in them ropes. If you've got to be able to look across that ring and think, you haven't trained harder than me, you're not in better shape than me. And it's a good positive to know, and I always felt that way. I never ever got in the ring and thought, if this is a high pace, I might struggle, or what if he outlasts me? I never ever thought that my opponent was going to be fitter than me, and it was a good mentality to have, because I knew I couldn't have trained any harder than what I did in preparation for my fight. So that was always a good thing, and that sort of brought me back to my amateurs, because I give everything I had in the amateurs, and I had a lot of success, and knowing that in my own head was sort of a blueprint for me in the pros, to know that it was going to be the same thing. If anything, it was just going to be tougher, because it was longer rounds and it was 12 rounds, but I had every confidence that I could outlast my opponent.
Well, there's a lot of politics in boxing, isn't there? And more now, I'd say it's gone really bad now, if you ask me, and that's just as a neutral and as a fan. You had a little bit of a thing with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, which was a bit of a nightmare for obviously both sides. What was the reason for wanting to go to Matchroom? Was it because of the boom from Matchroom? Because I think at the time it was just taking everything to another level, wasn't
it? No, to be honest with you, at the time I switched across. It was my first fight for Matchroom was Frock Rose 1, so it wasn't even like it hadn't took off the way it had. I was probably quite quick to get across the Matchroom, but it was more me personally. You know, I probably can't go into the details too much because of the court case I had, but you know, I went to court against, you know, Warren and stuff, who was managing me at the time, because I felt mismanaged, and went to court. And then obviously Eddie was in. It was a surreal court case over the 2 days I was there, and it was a surreal experience, because again, I'd never been in a court or not like that, and it was something. It was very eye opening for me, but you know, it went well for me, and you know, my career progress from then onwards. But it was just more down to personal reasons, and then my career progress with Eddie Hearn afterwards. And you know, I never regretted my decision. You know, Eddie was always fair with me. He told me what he was going to try and do. tried it, and if it worked, it worked, and if it didn't, I always knew where I stood, type of thing. And that was what I wanted in my career. Really, I wanted to know a plan, a route, and give it everything I had to get there. And again, it wasn't sort of down to opportunities why I didn't get as far as I could. It was just, again, I feel it was a little bit of luck here and there, and sometimes I wasn't good enough on the night, so I can live with that.
Yeah, I've spoke to a few people about the Warren situation, and I think he likes to pay his fighters in very payments. So we won't get into
You know
that.
what? Again, not with me. Listen, I've made no secret of it. It was just sort of when I had my first loss, I wasn't happy with the time frames of being paid and stuff like that, and there was other things that went on with me again, so which I sort of spoke up about and made my point of moving away from my contract, and that happened, and the success I had speaks enough really for everything I've got to say. And
Yeah,
I think I made the right move in terms of Matchroom, because again at the time it was a brand which was growing, it was becoming bigger and bigger, and my first fight was, as I say, Flock Groves won.
what a night.
I then had another fight. I think I fought in Leeds on a bill down there with Josh Warrington, who sells hundreds of tickets, 1,000 tickets himself. Massive ticket seller, and that was a great experience for me as well. And I ended up fighting for a world title in the States, which was big. I fought for a world title in Monte Carlo again, another experience. What I'll never forget. I got to fight in Vegas. Just a lot of good memories. It was all sort of boxes ticked for me, and it was good to be. Most importantly for me in my career, it was good to be a part of a sort of history-making set of brothers, which I've loved every part of it, and I'm so grateful that I've had my brothers throughout my career, because as well as being the biggest supporters and biggest fans to me, they've always been sort of a role and example for me. So I couldn't thank them enough.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that, obviously, well, I was going to speak obviously about your brothers as well. I've recorded with Paul in the past. He's a brilliant fella, and I remember going over memories with Dodson and everything from the younger days. It was the guy from Kirby. I always forget
Quigley.
the Quigley.
Tony
I remember watching that in the Echo Arena. Fucking mad night. You fought 3 times after the Vargas fight.
Yeah.
Why did you stop?
COVID.
3 wins as well.
Yeah. So I won my last 3 fights. I got over the injury and stuff, and I was back in the gym. I was training. I was fit, and I got 3 sort of fights. Got 3 wins, and I was sort of ready for another opportunity. Really, I wanted to go and win a world title, and that was always the ambition. And COVID sort of happened, and boxing stopped, and I thought, I was 33, 34, and I thought it's the wrong time of life to be having a year out the ring. In your 20s, not a problem. You go and have a year away, you come back and everything's still the same. And it just wasn't right for me. And especially being a super featherweight, I thought, it's not right. And I remember just lying there, I was in bed with my wife, and I said, no, what, I'm going to retire. And she was a bit like, where's this come from? And I said, I think with boxing stopping, it's not right for me to be sitting out the ring. I think I'm going to sort of start accepting it in my own mind that I might be retired. And she was just like, okay, whatever you say, type of thing. But I don't think she believed me. And then as time went by, a year out the ring, come and went, and then in the November, and then it was like the following April, May, and I was thinking, nah, I'm definitely done now. And then when it got to the June, like the anniversary of my debut, I thought, you know what, I'm fed up of getting messages. Everyone was messaging me, when are you fighting, when are you fighting, when are you fighting? And I thought, you know what, out of respect for people who have paid their hard money to go and watch me in the past and stuff, and they're asking me questions, I thought I'd just let everyone know now. And I announced it on the anniversary of my debut that I'm actually retired, and I was overwhelmed by the messages I got. I got a lot of really, really nice messages, which meant a lot to me, and I think it sort of sat well with me that, you know what, I did make a lasting impression on a lot of people, and that means a lot to me. And I think, again, I knew I'd give it everything, so I was okay with it. And it was a sad day, of course. I still miss boxing now, but now that I'm coaching, I think it's the next best thing for me, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, well, obviously part of a massively successful family, and brilliant brothers and brilliant lads as well, first and foremost. How do you see Liam and Callum's next couple of years? Because I've seen Callum looks in unbelievable shape, and Liam's just had that. can't even explain the last fight against Eubank. I was so gutted, because the first fight, everyone was so happy that he knocked him out.
Yeah,
that was the best thing I've seen in a while.
He was flying first time rounds, and it was such a good night. It was one of my favourite nights in boxing, aside from anything I've been through myself. It was one of my favourite nights just because I had my son there with me watching it, and he absolutely loved it, and the atmosphere was unreal. You know what I mean? Everyone got behind him for it, and this time round, everyone clear as day. Everyone can see it wasn't Liam in the ring. You know what I mean? He had so many injuries, and he was sort of like contracted to make that date, and because he'd pulled out the one before and with genuine injuries, he sent the scans off and stuff, and they agreed. They seen the injuries he had, it was legit. And then got to the second time round, and he had no business being in the ring that night. He was never ready, and people seeing it in the performance, unfortunately. And Liam's got to live with it. He give it everything he had. Liam's Liam, he was never pulling out of a fight, especially a fella who he's wiped the floor with first time round. So, it's one of them. You live and you learn, and hopefully, as I say, he can get back in the gym. He can put it right. He can go and put a performance in and make people sit up and take notice again, because he's been an unbelievable fighter. Throughout his career, he's had won world titles. He's been in the ring with the very best in the world. He's beat some top names, and he's been some journey to follow. Never mind be his brother. So I'm so proud of him. But I do believe he'll be back, and he'll be a name on people's lips again when he starts performing. He shows what he can still do.
When's he wanting to get back in?
Soon as, really. He's had to obviously rest his injuries. His ankle's getting there now. His back's good, so he's in a position where he can get in the gym now, start working on his fitness, get himself back in good shape, and then he can see what's about. He's still a big name, and there's still ample opportunities for him as well. He's been on the phone already, and he's had some really, it's going to be good when people hear that the opportunities what have been put his way. So I don't think he's the type of kid to come back and being a sort of a tick over, and that's not Liam. He's a proper fighting lad, and he'll come back in a big fight, and hopefully he can show people what he can do, and he'll be a name on people's lips again when he performs.
How worried were you as brothers, but also he's like mates as well, aren't you? But how worried were you going into the second fight, knowing the condition that he was in?
I hated it, to be honest with you, and sometimes it's hard because you get an interview and you've got to put a front on. You've got to sort of, you can't go in and say, we're not happy about this happening, because Eubank will be rubbing his hands together, you know what I mean, and going with a load of confidence, when I know he got in that ring very wary and very scared because of what happened beforehand, and he overcome a lot of demons in there, and listen, every credit to him, and you've got to wish him well and say well done to the performance he put in. But on the same hand, even he knows himself that wasn't Liam in that ring, but you can only beat what's in front of you, as you say. So well done to him. He overcome a few demons, and he put up a performance in of a good note for himself. But it was a hard watch for the family. From the very first bell, it was probably the longest night I've had in boxing, and hated every second of it. And knowing it wasn't Liam, and knowing he was just basically a sitting duck, to be honest with you. He didn't have no legs underneath him to close the gap, to let his shots go, and painful watch. And it was one of them. I'll never watch it back. I still haven't watched that fight back, and I'll never watch that fight back.
No, I don't think any scouser will, let's be honest.
Definitely.
Well, Callum's got a huge fight coming up, hasn't he?
Well,
he's got a chance to make history as well. How's he looking?
He looks really good. He's very early days in his camp, but he was absolutely flying for the fight in August, and unfortunately, I've got a jaw infection or whatever it was, and he had to pull out and postpone until January, which was absolutely gutting for us as a family, but more so for Callum. He was right up for the fight, and as I say, it was bad news when he pulls out, and especially with it being January. So it's one of them. He's dusted himself down. He's had a break. He went on holiday with his girl and his kids, and enjoyed some downtime. And then he's back now, and as I say, we've put a week's work in here now, and he's getting a good base to go off, and he's looking good anyway, and he's mentally in a really good place, and he's bang up for this.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing him back in there. I won't leave Paul out because I don't want him to get a cob on. But he's doing his own thing now, and obviously he's managing now. How are you finding him being in that side of things, being around him?
Do you know what? It's good that he's involved in the sport, A, because it keeps him busy, gives him a bit of a routine and, things to do. But B, I think that side of things suits Paul, the management side. He's one of them people where he's got a very, very good knowledge of the sport, and he will help and guide a lot of fighters and especially like young up and coming fighters. He knows because he's been through a lot of the pitfalls what I have myself, and it's not nice. Like boxing's the toughest sport in the world in my opinion, but it's a rough sport outside the ropes as well. As a lot of things that go on in the background which is not nice, and it's not the nicest of sports in that way. So Paul can look after people in that sense, and he knows what to look out for, and he'll be a good guy with his own experience for people, and again it gives him something to keep busy with himself. So we're happy.
Good. And obviously you're coaching now. How are you finding that? How are you finding the transition from actually fighting to coaching?
The next best thing, I miss boxing mad, and I was struggling with it, to be honest with you, after I retired. Very, very lucky having my wife supporting me type of thing, because she's seen me being lost, and I say this a lot, but I wasn't depressed, because I wouldn't disrespect people who are seriously depressed. I wouldn't put myself in that bracket, because I was happy as a person in my family life, but I was lost. That was the right word. I just had no sort of feeling like I fit in anywhere. I went to the gym to see my brothers and check they were okay, but I wasn't training because I didn't want to be fit, because if I was fit I'd box again, and I knew I couldn't. I'm 38 now, so I was lost for a while, and I feel coaching is what I was meant to be doing. I've started now, and I really, really enjoy it. I've started my coaching career with a kid who was ABA champion in Steve Clark, and everything I ask the kid he does, and he's looking at me with open eyes and open ears, and he's a pleasure to coach. So that in itself is sort of giving me a new purpose now to go to the gym, and I want to be the best. I want to be the best for him. I want to be the best for my fighters, and I don't want them to ever feel let down by the coach. So if I can put into coaching what I put into boxing, then I'm very, very sure I'll be successful.
Yeah, good luck, mate. Good luck. Last thing I want to talk about is a big side there. The Misfits, all this nonsense that's going on. Obviously, you've touched on Tyson Fury and Ngannou, which is, I'd say, a little bit different in terms of what I want to get to. But the YouTubing side of things, I don't think anyone who hasn't boxed, and dangerously for my little lad especially, because he's wanting to watch KSI fight fucking anyone.
Yeah.
But I don't think they realise how dangerous this is, do they? So
no, definitely not. And I think
it's a very scary proposition.
Yeah, my outlook on the game is, listen, if it's done right and anyone wants to try boxing, then good luck to them. And I've got no problem with two people both being trained up. It's a bit like the white collar thing in the amateurs. Two people go away and they train and they prepare accordingly. Then why not let them get in the ring and have a fight? That's fine. But it's when these people are coming in and they're calling out the best in the world. People are coming in thinking it wasn't a fight with Floyd Mayweather. Like, I couldn't sit here now and call out Floyd Mayweather and get a fight. It doesn't work that way. But because they've got a lot of subscribers and a lot of followers, they think that warrants them a fight. And I think the only way it's going to end is if one of them gets hit, because some of these lads can fight, by the way. Listen, Jake Paul's a sort of a YouTuber and all that, but I'm telling you now, he can fight. He can shape up well, and he's not bad. Listen, he's not Mayweather, but he knows his way around the ring, and he's getting better. He's improving compared to a lot of these YouTubers. A lot of them are sort of can't fight, and I think that's going to be when it comes across. Where one of them who can fight a bit, who can hold their own, like say Jake Paul gets in with someone who's just basically got millions of followers but can't fight. I think one of them are going to get hurt, and then it'll be sort of frowned upon a little bit more than what it is. But for my own sort of personal preference, I don't mind it. I think good luck to them. Go and do it. If it gets more eyes on the sport, then it can only be beneficial. But I just hope they stay safe, because no one wants to see anyone get hurt in the sport, and I think that's running a massive risk of it happening. So again, as long as the safety is paramount, then good luck to them.
Yeah, so the MMA crossover, you've got someone in your gym now. Obviously, Darren Till training from Rotunda now, and he looks like he's probably mentally more so, I'd say. Looking at him now, he looks mentally in a miles better place than he has been for a few years. How's he getting on?
Darren's great. Listen, his work ethic's unbelievable. I think he puts the time in, so he deserves what he gets from it. And You know, he's improving all the time. Listen to Aaron come off first, and he had a bit of naivety about him when I watched him sparring for the first time, and he was just sort of a bit bullish and was walking someone down and wasn't really bothered about what was coming at him. And I remember having a little conversation with him, like, listen, don't be too brave in boxing, like, avoid the punches, use your lead hand, set it up and stuff. And then, and not taking any credit for it, by the way, but I remember trying to give him a bit of advice, you know what I mean? Just like, don't, it's not about how brave you are, how many shots you can take, you know what I mean? And I remember being out the gym for a while, and I come back in, matter of a couple of months later, and I watched him spar, and I was gobsmacked by how much he's come on. Like, couldn't believe how much he's improved, to the point where I went over to him and I said, wow, Darren, hats off to you, mate. Like, you've come on a bomb. Setting things up and avoiding punches and stuff, and not being bullish and brave, being clever and smart. And I was really impressed with him, and I said to him, do you know what? Got to give credit where it's due. I think, you know, you learn all the time, and it's good to see fighters who do look, listen, and put it into practice. And to be fair to him, as I say, he's been known for a lot of the wrong reasons at the times, that, and where he's a bit outspoken and stuff. But I see him in the gym, and he's really putting it in, and I think he deserves every success he has when you work as hard as he does.
And you know, and when he goes back over to MMA, which I fully expect to happen, is it going to make him a much more dangerous fighter because of the boxing skills and everything that he's learning in the Thunder?
If he does, if that's what he chooses to do, then of course it will. It's only adding to his striking game in the MMA. But I think he wants to sort of make a career in boxing now, and you know, if that's what he does, the more he improves, the better he gets. He's going to have success in it, because, put it this way, mate, you put him into that Misfits market, he walks straight in it now, and he does well, and he has really good success in it. I'm telling you that now, definitely. I've seen some of the caliber of opponents in this Misfits with these YouTubers, and making more than hold his own already in that. So if he can go in and throw himself right in amongst, you know, with all the likes of these Jake Pauls and stuff, I'd put my money on Darren with any of them.
Yeah, good. Okay, Stephen, I won't keep you any longer, mate, because I know you're on a bit of a camp yourself, and you're away. Thanks very much for your time, first of all, mate.
No problem, really enjoyed it, mate. Thank you.
Really appreciate it, and good luck with the coaching, mate, and good luck with the rest of your career.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.